Okay, so we're going to work on the bruschetta right now. We've got the baguette is rising in the bowl. Pull my veggies over here. So this is a very simple, quick, easy recipe. Especially when you have fresh vegetables, it's absolutely perfect. You can find this and most of the recipes that we cook in my book, Gluten-Free Food Ahead. You get that on Amazon, either a Kindle book or the old-fashioned hard copy, paperback. All right, so all I'm going to do is give a rustic cut to these tomatoes. And what I mean by that is I'm just coring them after I've quartered them. And then I'm going to chop them kind of big. Ooh. I don't care to have the seeds in it. They can stay, they can go. It doesn't really matter to me. You want some, but you don't need a lot. It helps if you have a sharp knife and a steady hand. Apparently I have neither right now. Sorry about that. Alright. So I'm just going to do 2 tomatoes, about 7 leaves of fresh basil. Get that goop out of my way. The earlier in the day that you can do this, the better. You really want to let the tomatoes and the garlic and the basil just kind of all infuse with that oil. And once the bread's cooked, we let it cool down a little bit. And I brush it with a little bit of olive oil and garlic, and I toast it. Pull it out of the oven, and then I put the bruschetta on top of it. Now, some people will put it back in the oven with some Parmesan cheese, melted cheese, and you're certainly welcome to do that. Depends on what you guys like. I don't normally do the cheese, especially in the summertime. The vegetables are so fresh, so good. Some of that goop out of my way. All right. Speed this process up a little bit. Your little suckers. There. Done. That took forever. Okay. Garbage off to the side. Now, my basil. I think the easiest way to cut basil, and I want to have long strings for this particular recipe, is I put the 7 leaves all inside of each other. Then I'm just going to roll them up like a cigar. Now you can chop them, just crisscross chop them if you want. Do it any way that makes you happy. I happen to like the way this looks and the way that this tastes. So then all I do is just nice long cut down there. And if you happen to get any that are too thick, then you can go ahead and cut those. Sprinkle that over the tomatoes. Clean my knife. 1 clove of garlic. Again, we're just going to give it a rustic chop. You could mince it if you want. I like to have the bigger chunks. I just like the way that they look on the bread. I like the flavors that you get. But certainly, if you want to make it go farther, go ahead and mince it. So I give it a nice fine dicing like this. We're almost done. This is such a simple recipe, and it's so good. So I use Roma tomatoes or plum tomatoes. Got it all here in my bowl. Now I'm going to use about 1/8 of a cup, so just a small amount of virgin olive oil. Drizzle that. I'm not going to pour it all on it first. Then I'm going to hit it with some fresh pepper. Fresh black pepper, it's a stronger flavor when it's fresh, when you crack it. And then salt. You can use sea salt, which is also that coarse, more strong salt. And don't over season it right away. You can always add more. And then I'm just going to stir it up. That's it. Now I'm looking for the consistency I want is exactly this. I want it heavy. I want it big. I want the tomato. Some people will mash this up. To me, that's going to get really wet on the bread. So your bruschetta, when it comes to the plate, is going to start to seep out all over the place. And I don't want that. I want to keep this all nice and together. Okay. And I actually did not need all of that olive oil, so I'm glad I only did a little bit. And you should do the same. You can always add more later when you're talking about seasoning. And then that's it. Simple. Now the longer this sits, I'm going to cover this, put it in my refrigerator. And the longer this sits in the refrigerator, the stronger the flavor is going to be. So that's the other reason for keeping it large. You don't need to have a huge mound of this on the baguette. You just need a small little amount. And the flavors of the fresh bread and the fresh vegetables and that basil, the garlic, the salt, it's going to pop. It's going to be beautiful. Okay, enough stirring. And that's it. That's a simple, easy bruschetta. Make it all year long as you get the fresh vegetables. Let this sit probably 3 or 4 hours before I pull this out. We've got the bread starting to rise. Maybe another 15, 20 minutes on the bread. We'll come back and we'll finish that up. Stay with us.